Welcome to the Ty and Rye the Finance Guys podcast, covering weekly investment news, important financial topics, and expert interviews. We want to help you become more knowledgeable about the financial world around you. This is not an offer to sell you anything, and remember, past performance doesn't indicate future results. Now your hosts, Ty Hansen and Ryan Robertson.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode here. Ty and Rye the Finance Guys. You'll see Ty, if you're watching the video, he's in a new office today.
I'm in my new office.
And he actually got his pictures hung up.
I put a few pictures up. Lovely Timpanogos picture behind me. I like that.
I believe you took that picture, did you not?
I did. It's
after scaling the mountain yourself?
I did. It's a really cool panorama of it's actually really cool. Like on this side, for those people watching on YouTube, it's Utah County where I was born and raised. So that's my life right there. I love it. And this is my favorite picture. So
Mount Timpanogos may be prettiest mountain in the state.
It's beautiful. Oh, yeah, Kings Peak's pretty cool. I like Kings Peak, but Tim. So we're in the new place. We're growing and expanding, and so we need a little bit more office space, and that's where we're at. So
and scaling the mountain, Ty, great segue into today's topic.
The mountain. Yes, it is.
Because you're at the top of the mountain, you have to come down. And you need some help to get down.
Are you talking about the fact that you and I have kind of hit our peak and we're kind of coming down?
Not me and you, the topic today.
Oh, okay, good. I mean, I kind of feel like I'm coming down. Like I've peaked in life and I'm coming down.
We both feel that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as we can agree on that.
We're going through our midlife crisis at the exact same time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good times.
So we're talking about now today Social Security, everybody's absolute most favorite topic.
Right.
Everybody's.
Yes.
And in fact, every 4 years, it's everybody's favorite topic. Every presidential election, Social Security is like the main thing.
Really is. And unfortunately, most politicians just kind of pay it lip service.
Man, nobody really wants to figure it out.
Yeah, we need to. We're going to dive deep into this as far as the political aspects of Social Security, because, and I don't care Republican or Democrat what people are, but there's
what about
a lot
Green Party? Does that matter?
What's Rand Paul? What's his category?
Libertarian, pretty much.
Libertarian, yeah, or if they're libertarian, that's true. Mm-hmm. So we got to dive into that for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, when you think about Social Security, right? Obviously, the whole point of it was, and everybody struggled with this. Once humans started to live longer, we weren't being eaten by bears anymore, and jaguars. We started to live past an age that we could actually work and care for ourselves. There were, for a long time, no safety nets for those that were old. You needed family to do it, and then here, my history coming out, urbanization starts to occur.
Let it roll, buddy. You're the historian here.
And then you hit really the biggest economic disaster in modern history with the Great Depression.
Yep.
And it kind of forced enough people to rethink, okay, how do we rethink this idea of those that are basically at the last stages of life?
Right.
What's the best way to do this? So unfortunately, it was sort of meant to be supplemental.
Right.
And over the last, a couple of generations, it's really kind of become a lot more important, which is kind of a problem.
Yeah, and coming back to that, the idea you're talking about of kind of the history behind all this, right? It started in the mid-30s, 1930s. What's interesting is that I think what's key is that this generation now, the boomers that are kind of coming, the previous generation, I think they were better about saving, right? Because they went through the Great Depression, in their 20s and 30s. So they knew, okay, we have to save everything. And they were better savers versus now we're starting to see the baby boomers who were the children of that generation. And I kind of noticed this with my dad because he was, he's passed, but he was part of that baby boomer generation. And he wasn't so much a saver. he was like, his parents were hardcore savers, and so he was kind of like, well, screw that. Like, I want to live my life. I want to spend. So I think we're kind of on that tail end of that generation tapering off, where, people weren't very good at saving, and they relied a lot more on Social Security. So
yeah, and you can obviously throw in there too a whole lot less pension plans. Companies are cutting back on that, so that kind of factors into it. But the funny thing is, we're making more money than we were in the past. There's more opportunity, but yet it seems as though it's more difficult because responsibility is now falling on individuals to really take care of where they're going, what they're doing with their money. So hopefully what we'll get to today is a better understanding of Social Security, for one, and for those that are counting on it and or planning for it, what do they need to expect over the next decade? Because things are going to change.
Right. And I mean, I want to jump right into it early and kind of put it out there.
Jump right in now.
I'm going to scare people a little bit.
Yeah, scare them.
And not because I'm trying to, this isn't clickbait. Social Security is running out.
Yeah,
like we've got an article. We're gonna talk a lot about that. That's all those details we're gonna dive into right now. But if you're planning on 100% of the Social Security you think you're gonna get, you're not getting it.
Yeah,
you're not. So you have to plan.
Yeah, we've known that for a while, but we just saw an article just barely, which kind of spurred us a little bit even more to say we really need to address this topic.
Right.
Just what the trajectory of those two pensions. I mean, essentially. Where they're going, where they're headed.
Yeah.
And, everybody needs to understand that as they get there.
Well, the key piece to this whole thing, and this is what I want to just, I'm going to beat this drum. I'm going to stand on the soapbox. I am going to seriously beat this horse dead, is I don't care where you do it or how you do it. You have to plan. You have got to plan. If you don't plan, you're going to be screwed. You're going to come into retirement. You're going to be thinking, and just so people know, like this is one of the biggest things that I'm like I will pat myself on the back for this, but I've been building financial plans for 10, 15 years now, and I've always built into my models a reduction of Social Security over time, because it's the most prudent way you can plan. Because for most people, even if they have enough in assets, they're still going to draw Social Security, and it's going to be the backbone of what they're doing. So, big changes coming, big time.
Right.
So plan for it.
Let's just do a couple things too, just to kind of bring us up to speed with it too.
Okay.
Just in case, Social Security is something that you pay into yourself.
Yep.
Right. It comes out of your check, earned income that you make every year. You pay into it. And obviously the idea is it's a tax, but it's for you.
Right.
And it is put into and under the control of the Social Security Board, in which it is to be basically held there then to pay back to you. So
exactly.
Everybody probably knows they talk about the FICAs, or not FICA. Is it FICA? No, what is it?
FICA, FUTA, and you pay part, and your employer pays part. Right.
So you pay half. Employer pays half of that, and I think it's 15% total. So 7.5. Is that what it is now?
It is. Hold on, I have the number right in front of me. It's 12. So I think you're each 6.1. So I think it's 6.2, 6.2. Yeah.
Okay.
So 12, a little over 12%. Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea is, of course, is just trying to not have this Great Depression hit again, where just millions of people have no money to live off of, and they're old and they can't work. I mean, that's the whole idea.
Right.
So. But then the biggest problem when we start to talk about this is that money is on paper. It doesn't technically mean it's there. So, we can sit and argue about politics, about why and who did it and what happened. But the reality of it is that as the baby boomers now are twice as big as the one before them, 40% as big as the generation before them. They're huge. You look at those graphs of baby boomers. They're all hitting this retirement age now, drawing from Social Security, and the
other thing too that I'll stress. Sorry, I've got a lot of notes here and dates and information, so I'm trying to see the exact timing of life expectancy. But so back 30, 40 years ago, the average life expectancy was 69 years of age. right?
Yeah.
Now it's I'm looking for the exact number. It's like 75 to 78 years of age, right?
Yeah,
so
I think men are like maybe 1 or 2 years less than women.
Yep. Yeah, exactly, because we do really dumb things. So yeah, exactly. That's the whole point, though. Is so we are living longer, and so people have just you think about that as a big pile of money. If people are living longer, they're just taking more money out of that pile, right? And
it's
so
not being replenished.
Nope.
It's like drawing water from a reservoir, and there's not enough snowpack.
No
to refill it.
snowpack or rain. That is true.
We're in the West, so we deal with that a lot.
We had a big drought this year. Couldn't water our lawns. So
let's just again 2 more points too, so we can kind of set the stage for what you're going to do to just frighten people.
Yeah.
First, let's talk about how it's calculated, how people could kind of understand how it's calculated, and how do they find out. It's kind of something that we talk to people every day about it.
Right.
Like, I don't know what I'm going to get. Okay, well, let's go find out to get an idea.
Well,
talk about that.
And that's the nice thing too. So the main thing comes down to understanding what are I don't want to dive into too many of the details because I tend to do that on this podcast. But and for each person it's a little different. But really, the main key points as far as calculation you want to understand is it's your 5 top earning years, right? That works into that averages. So like and this is actually important too if you're self-employed and you write off a ton of stuff, you might be shooting yourself in the foot for Social Security down the road, right? So you got to think about that too. Anyways, but if you worked in your 30s or 40s and you made $100,000 a year, but then in your late 50s, all of a sudden you're making $200,000 a year, right? Those higher earning years will have the biggest impact on your Social Security because you're paying into the system, all throughout those years, but really the federal government looks at your highest earning years. And then the other reason it's like it behooves you to talk to somebody, and it behooves you to do some research to figure out, because you have choices. You can take it early at 62, or you can take really, for most people it's about 67, right? It's depending on your age, you might be able to take it a little earlier, a little bit later, 66 and a half, 67. And then you can defer it until you're 70. And so that's going to impact how much you get. Obviously, if you take it earlier, you're going to get less. If you take it, right at your full retirement age, you're going to get the full amount. And if you defer, you're going to get even more. So that's the only reason I don't want to get too deep into the calculations, because it depends on some of the choices that you make. So, but the long and short is even if you haven't been quite making as much money earlier in your career, that's okay. You're still going to be able to, you're going to have better earning years down the road, so you're going to be just fine. So, yeah. So again, just the key here is, if look at your best 5-year earning years, and then obviously as you decide what you want to pull, that's the key. So there's a few moving pieces to that calculation.
Yeah, and those are the 2 main things. And you can actually go to the Social Security Administration's website, and get a basic understanding of what that is for you. And if you know your income and age, then you kind of get a sense of it.
Yeah, if you Google, we'll actually, you know what? Let's put the link in this podcast when people go to download it. But if you just Google Social Security Benefit Estimator, the first site that comes, there's no ads, there's nothing. The first site that comes up it'll say like Social Security websites estimator.
Right.
Plug in your info, and you're good to go.
And so everybody's getting a sense of that's kind of the first step, having a good sense of knowing what that's going to be. Now, Ty, it is time for the scare.
Let's get into the dirty details.
Yeah. What can people expect in, I think, 2032? 2034.
So it was originally projected. So the long and short is we're now running out of money.
Yeah.
The Social Security coffers are starting to run. So there's money, but the amount coming in versus the amount going out, we've now hit the point where we're drawing away from the balance instead of adding to the balance.
Yeah.
So the projection is it was supposed to be 2035, But if you think about it, COVID just happened last year.
Yes, it did.
Was it last year? Anyways, it feels like
yes.
10 years ago.
Seriously.
Okay, COVID just happened, in case you forgot.
Yeah.
And people weren't working. People aren't working. They're not making paychecks. They're not paying that 12.4% we were talking about. So that means in 2034, Social Security will be reduced. And it's currently looking like it'll be reduced by about 20 to 28%. So you're going to get 75 cents on the dollar of what you would have been receiving.
Yeah.
Kind of a big deal when you think about it.
Yeah, huge deal. And you figure the people that, not as many people working, plus how many people just like, well, I guess I'll just retire now.
Yeah.
And you retire
that's a great point. Yeah.
Now they're going to start drawing more out of that too. So it's kind of this double whammy that happens.
That's a real, and like we said before, and we are living longer.
Mm-hmm.
We have little blue pills and all kinds of other funny pills that make us life better and let us live longer.
Yeah, they do.
And so, so because of that, we're drawing more out of the system. So that's a big deal. Again, I can't stress that enough. Like, now here's the thing. I don't want people to be like, oh crap, I'm screwed. What this really means is you just have to take control. That's really what it boils down to. There are definite ways, and we'll dive into that here in a second. There are ways to plan accordingly, and there are ways to take care of this and make yourself so that you're shored up. And Social Security it's going to be there. And I even want to talk too. I did a little bit of digging and research about some potential fixes to this problem from a political standpoint. And I'm pretty optimistic that there can be some pretty good things changed. So we'll talk about some things politically I think that might fix this problem. But I'm a very big believer in self-reliance, and I like controlling things in my life that I can just take control over, and I know that I have, what the outcomes can be.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point here is don't freak out. Just look at what you have and look at where you can use it as a small foundation. Okay, so it's not going to be 100%. Maybe you're going to get 50 cents on the dollar for you and I that are younger. Maybe you're only going to get 70 cents on the dollar if you're, in your, 50s, 60s. But the point is plan. Look at the numbers, and any good advisor, and that's what we do. And I'm not trying to just pimp out our services here, but I do want people to understand these are the things that we look at all the time.
Yeah.
And if you don't put your head in the sand and you actually look at the information, you can make a plan that will work. You can.
Yeah.
Your have-to-haves can be taken care of.
Right. And so, when you think about the place someone would be, say they're like, I don't know, let's say they're 58, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe retirement is another 5-6 years away. I mean, there's just they, planning before that, sure, but it's not too late for someone at that age to say, well, I really probably should start looking at a plan of action.
Right.
And if you're 58, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter the age.
Right.
You can always do something to improve, and that's all that's really important.
I
with
agree.
All this.
Exactly, and that's what it comes down to. It's funny because I feel like most often you and I, we really play the role of therapist more than anything. We really do.
Yeah.
And I've seen. In fact, it's funny because I saw this even with my parents, right? And again, like I said, they were kind of on the tail end of the Great Depression generation, right? The baby boomers, the first part of the baby boomers. Yeah. And they were kind of of this mindset. They're like, oh, my parents were so dang frugal and they wouldn't throw anything away. I want to spend my money. And so my parents were terrible at planning, right? And they were still okay. They were able to make it through retirement and be just fine, right? My point is don't put your head in the sand. You just can't. As long as you face reality with this. And again, I don't mean that to sound so harsh. I literally just mean okay, let's take stock of what we have, and you really would be surprised how much you can do with what is left over from Social Security. So
right, yeah. So why don't we go through a couple of things that we think everybody really should be looking at, particularly those that are in the late 50s, maybe early 60s, and even before that too. I mean, people in our age group, like what kinds of things do we really need to start looking at in conjunction with where we think Social Security is going and what to do with it?
Yeah. So okay, and let's also too remember I want to come back to some of the political things, because I want people to know that stuff's in the works right now, and I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat.
Well, let's address them right now, because that kind of leads us to it.
Yeah. No. Okay. That's okay. Let's get into it then. Okay. So a couple of proposals are if they simply increase that tax from the 6.2 up to even like 6.4, 6.7 for employers, 6.7, maybe even up to close to 7%. So it is a tax hike, and I will say that I err a little bit more on the side of being Republican when it comes to taxes. I believe in less taxation because anyways, that's just me, right? Mm-hmm. I want to pay as little in tax as possible. However, in this instance, I think that is a place where if you make that increase, I believe that is a really good use of money. I really do, because I do think the Social Security system is very beneficial, and I think unfortunately not too many Americans are planning appropriately to not rely on Social Security, and so because of that. I do like this idea of the federal government kind of stepping in, saying, "Okay, we've got to shore up Social Security." So that's a big one. There is making that change. Yeah. Another proposed change I've seen too is changing that early retirement age from 62 up to 64, maybe even 65.
Right.
I love that idea too. Now that does suck for some people that maybe want to retire a little earlier and just live off a little bit less.
But again, like, what are you supposed to do, right? Yeah. The reservoir's draining. So it's got to be some of this stuff that happens.
Right. You know what's interesting about this? There was, and it was a much more aggressive hike, but in Ireland, was it Ireland? I think it was Ireland. And it was about 10 or 15 years ago. I didn't research the exact dates on this. There was a really aggressive political debate and battle over adjusting their version of Social Security. And there was like major rioting in the streets.
Oh, I'm sure.
A bunch of old people out there with their walkers shaking their little tennis balls on the bottom.
They're taking that off and throwing it at people.
Damn you politicians.
Uh-huh.
So
that's why it's such a big political thing now.
It is.
You can't go out there as a presidential candidate and go, I'm going to cut Social Security. You won't get any votes. So that's kind of a problem that we're faced with, is major change to the Social Security is just going to have to take somebody. It has to happen. It's a tough thing to get into.
And this is where I'm like, okay, listen, people, check your political beliefs at the door. And that's why I'm saying, like, I tend to err on the side of get rid of taxes as much as we can. Do you know what I mean? But in this instance, I'm like, no, I'm even as a business owner, I'm happy to pay more. I am.
Yeah.
To be frank, that extra, few tenths of a percent, they're not going to make or break my business. They're not. Right? And I get that might be the case for some people, but let's make those changes now, because again, I know that's not just it is going to be for me and you, but that's going to save a lot of people. So I'm all for that. I really am.
Yeah, I mean, because you can imagine if there's a real massive breakdown of Social Security, what that's going to do to the overall economy, social fabric.
Exactly.
A lot of problems. So there does need to be some belt tightening here that can be done, that we can all sort of accept and just do. We just kind of need to. Yeah,
because what's the alternative is? The alternative is, okay, then American population, Jane and Joe investor, you need to take responsibility and you need to save more money. So stop spending as much money and save. Yeah. That's the alternative, right? So to be frank, I'm not as optimistic that more people are going to do that. especially with cost of living going up right now, all kinds of things that are inflating right now. I'm not optimistic that's going to happen. So I'm okay with a little bit of a kind of a forced hand, if you will. And I love what you said, belt tightening.
Well, and it's going to happen one way or the other. Either you're going to have to kind of start doing that now, or it's going to hit you hard in a few more years, and you're going to have to do it then anyway. So
exactly,
like the piper's pipe, you got to pay the piper. Piper needs to be paid.
The piper.
Got to pay the piper.
There's a piper. Somebody
he comes around with his flute and wants to be paid. You got to pay him.
That is very true. The other thing there's another piece to this too. So there's what's built in. It's called cola, not RC Cola or Coca-Cola.
Correct.
Although I do love those. It's cost of living adjustment, COLA, COLA.
Yeah.
There's also some debate and discussion about adjusting. Now that's actually something I do like is that isn't getting as much traction. I do like the idea of COLA, so where it's basically like Social Security does inflate. Again, in our plans, we actually don't account for that, which some people may say, well, that's stupid because it's going to happen, so why don't you account for it? Because we take a more conservative approach. But that's another thing they're thinking about hitting is saying, okay, well, rather than, the 1.5% COLA, maybe we drop that to 1.25% or 1%, right? So you get less of a bump every year, which is in and of itself a little problematic. Right. But I would rather see it pushed onto the front end of a little bit higher Social Security tax at the employer-employee level. So those are a few things that we're seeing come down the pipeline from a political standpoint to solve this problem.
Yeah.
So now, how do we solve it?
Yeah, because again, like if you're planning in the correct way, you are doing it more conservative, so that we're not out here expecting certain things to happen that we have no control over. We're only going to go after what we really know is reasonable, and plan from that, so that get caught off guard.
Exactly.
So first thing, Ty, what do you think?
Okay, 2 key pieces that I want to hit.
No, only one.
Dang it.
Just do one.
Okay.
Never mind, you can do 2. Never mind, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That makes me feel a lot better, because then I was in my head debating which one I should dive into. Number one, and I've been kind of a broken record on this podcast about this one, is you have to plan. Because if you're 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, and you look at all the information you have, and it's not hard. I know it might kind of seem a little overwhelming at first, right? But if it's very, trust me, I'm a numbers guy, I'm a nerd. It's a simple matter of dollars in versus dollars out, okay? And Ryan and I, we go through that all the time with people where we say, okay, how much Social Security do you have? Do you have any pensions? Do you have any 401k savings? Do you have any other mattress money? Do you have real estate? What do you have that is an asset you can draw from?
Yeah.
Now, not your primary residence. We don't ever want to touch the primary residence because you want to live there. And so we'll go through, and you have to plan. And the idea may be, okay, you're thinking lifestyle X, which is way up here. We look at all the information. It's like, that won't work. Okay, so lifestyle Y, which is a little bit lower, but still very manageable. That might be the change that needs to be made is, you're not flying to Hawaii every year. Maybe you fly to Hawaii every other year, right? It's kind of setting realistic expectations.
People going to Hawaii way too much.
Way too many people going to Hawaii. Or the opposite of that is, okay, we don't have as much money to draw from that, and we understand what that lifestyle is going to look like. Mm-hmm. It's really setting that right expectation, right? The alternative is, okay, I still have working years. I want to cram more money into my retirement. And even if it's not into, let's say savings, because you may be maxing out your 401k with your employer. You may be maxing out your Roth and IRA contributions. Even if it's not tax efficient, if it's not going into an IRA, put saving, like you can still invest above and beyond that. You really can. You can put as infinite dollars you want into a regular brokerage account, Robinhood, anywhere you want. Heck, even if it's going into savings, the idea is saying, okay, look, I can afford to shave $500 off my budget this month, every month, and throw that into my retirement account, wherever, or investment account, wherever it is.
Yeah.
So either end of the spectrum, right? Either you're reducing the lifestyle in retirement, or you're adding monies that are coming in during retirement, or in the final working years.
Right.
Right. Do that. Plan. And if you do those few little things, again, it's like for me and my wife, it's like, to be frank, I don't care if Social Security runs down or even runs out, because I'm not planning. I mean, I have it built into my plan right now, but I don't care, because I'm not going to be reliant upon that, because I'm saving money today in my 30s and 40s. I'm saving today. Right. So that's key number one, right? Build a plan. You just have to. I don't care who you are. You have to do that. Number two, you can almost, and it goes hand in hand with saving, but it's what you invest and save in, right? And so it's having things that will generate good cash flow, like Social Security, because that's all Social Security is a giant cash flow, right? It's a giant pension from the government. Well, since pensions don't really exist as often or as much anymore, because companies just don't give them, build your own, and that's either through buy property, buy real estate. You can buy income producing, like high dividend stocks or high interest yielding bonds, or do an annuity, a fixed annuity, right? There are income strategies that you and I have helped clients build that generate $500 a month for the rest of your life, $5,000 a month for the rest of your life, like things that have guaranteed growth that will never drop below, once they hit higher watermarks, they don't ever go lower.
Yeah.
And it's guaranteed cash flow for the rest of your life, no matter what. Right? And so it's using that kind of a tool. Again, it all comes back to the plan. You build the plan, and then you use the right tools. And Social Security will be a part of that plan. It's going to be the base. But if we don't have as much to use, then that's okay. Let's look elsewhere. Where else can we build good cash flow? And again, properties, high income producing stocks and bonds, and high interest yielding bonds and annuities. You build those tools out. You build them the right way. You're going to have very good cash flow in retirement.
Yeah. Well, kind of going back to your 2 points here with the plan, I think a lot of people may think plan, okay, well, I don't know how to do that. How do I do that? That's why people like us are out there trained to do it.
Right.
Talk with somebody. Find out, hey, call around, talk to us, whoever, and say, I need to get an idea of not only where I'm at, but I need to get an idea of where I'm going to be.
Right.
And that's just where you start. Like, it's not something that's going to come together. And it it's a living, breathing thing. Every year it's going to change a little bit. Because as you save, as you grow, as things just are different in 5 years, you need a plan that changes with you, so you can constantly be looking at, where am I short?
Exactly. Yeah, even if you built a plan 5 years ago, stress test it, right? And see. In fact, one of my favorite things that I love doing, clients that have been with us a long time, I tend to project the planning software and tools that we use. I tend to under project growth of assets, right?
Right.
I like to be more conservative. Not that somebody takes a conservative investment approach. Just whatever investment approach you use, I like to dumb whatever level that is. I like to dumb it down a little bit. And so, like, for example, even some of our more aggressive clients, it's like, let's project maybe a 7% growth rate for the next few years.
Right.
And we know we're going to scale it back in 10 years, but for the next 3 to 5 years, we'll go 7.5%. Well, okay, so their portfolio is up, like, for example, some of our portfolios year to date are up 14, 15%. That's, basically almost double what we're projecting each year. So it's like, I love coming back around to the plan.
Yeah. Taking
20 minutes and saying, hey, I mean, you remember how last year your probability of success in your plan was about 93%? Well, guess what? We're sitting at about 95% because we've made more money in or maybe you bought and sold a property that's giving you a lot more cash flow than you thought, or maybe even your rents have increased on some of the rentals you own. Keep coming back to it. You're absolutely right, man. It's living, it's breathing, and it's ongoing, and that's awesome. When you do it right and you're conservative, it's awesome to see that. Hey, I mean, it's just like running marathons, right? I literally want to build a marathon. I look at it and I say, okay, I'm such a dork. I literally have a race band that I wear, and it shows every mile adjusted for elevation. What pace am I going to run that mile?
But I can guarantee you doing that. You run better. There's just no doubt.
It's so one of my fastest half marathons I've ever run. I knew the course really well. I knew exactly the elevation, how much gain, how much drop every mile. When I got to mile 10 or 11, I was within 3 seconds of what I had projected.
You're such a nerd.
3 seconds. 3 seconds. And it was awesome because I was like, sweet, I'm going to hit my goal. And it was kind of my A goal.
Yeah.
And then it was like, and then I actually hit the, so it was like, I ended up, and it was crazy because I was so psyched that I was so dialed in that I actually ended up running about 20 seconds overall faster than what I had projected. But the same principle applies. It's like, now, do you have to plan for every single elevation gain or every single mile of your retirement plan? Probably not. And the cool thing is, actually, there are a ton of free tools out there to get you started. There are. Yeah. For our clients, we don't charge any extra for the planning because one of the biggest foundations. So Ryan and I, there's a lot of things that we believe strongly in with our company. But even before that, one of the biggest core pieces of what I believe in with doing what I do for my living, for my profession, what I love that I do, is I want to give people planning, and I don't charge anything else for it because it's just so important. Right. You know what I mean? And so you're right. Take the time, face the music, and worst case scenario, maybe you adjust your lifestyle a little bit. To be frank, most people, it's very rare that people have to kind of adjust down. Very rare.
Right. If you can track it, you can change it.
That's right.
Right.
And you can be within 3 seconds of your pace in a half marathon.
Yeah, when I ran 9 miles, I didn't have that, so I didn't do very well.
You're like, I don't care. Just make it end. I have had a few races. I will say this. I've had a few races where I ripped the band off and threw it away and swore at it because I was like just so frustrated and it wasn't even close.
See, some people may want to do that with their plan time, but what do? You got to come back to it. You got to come back to it.
Keep on.
Yeah.
You got to keep on keeping on.
We've been talking about it in some previous podcasts too. I'll just bring this up too as kind of tying some of these together. This planning for retirement thing is just something that a lot of people, I find with a lot of people, they want to do it, but they kind of don't want to do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They put their head in the sand.
And part of it has to do with is because they don't feel like that they can be successful at it. And so it's about sort of redefining what's successful.
Yes.
And it's sort of redefining what you can do with what you've got, because we kind of live in this world where we know what everybody's doing at every second all the time. And it's easy to have that FOMO. It's easy to have that jealousy and these feelings of being like, oh, I'm not as successful as somebody else. Redefine it for you. Redefine it for your situation, and have somebody who actually cares about you work with you on it. Because, it's almost like a doctor. You want a doctor that you trust, that you can go to, you can talk to. Yeah. They can help you through the whole thing. Kind of your finances, a lot, same thing. Find people that you trust and work with them.
Absolutely. And I think that is so spot on. What you just said is it literally does come down to exactly that. It's wanting to, or not really defining what's within your scope of I don't want to say reality, but what you really can accomplish, right? With whatever you're given, whether it's more or less than somebody else, who cares? It's having, what is really going to work? And not having that fear or jealousy or greed of, crap, well, this other guy or gal has more than I do. You're so spot on. And that's why I say I feel like we play therapist a lot of the time. Yeah. Because But here's the thing. If you don't do it in your 40s, 50s, early 60s, it will hit you like a Mack truck in your mid to late 60s if you don't plan.
Yeah. Yeah. You just got to start. So, it's just one of the things you just got to start. That's the hardest part, just starting. Once you get started, I promise, you'll start to see little, like, as you say, each little mile marker, you're like, oh, I'm close. Maybe I pick it up a little bit here. Oh, I'm ahead of schedule. Okay.
Yeah.
I can either dial that back a little bit or I can keep going. Like these little moments, you can really do it.
And that's the funniest and the human condition about this whole thing is once you've set the right expectations, the FOMO crap kind of goes away. Yeah. And that also, again, there's so many points to draw from this. It's like, then when, again, not trying to bag on crypto, but it's this idea of like, oh crap, I got to make a ton of money.
Yeah.
That fear, it's like, it's not on your radar. It just goes away because you're like, no, I'm good. I'm fine. I don't have to.
I got a plan. I don't need to change it.
I've got a plan. Yeah, I don't have to. Right. Maybe you take, okay, sure, I'll take 5% because even if I lost every penny of that 5%, like I'm still going to make it just fine.
Yeah, I was going to say, like,
so it allows you many applications.
It allows you to go, oh no, I can risk this amount in that. Yep. That doesn't change because now you see the numbers. And so I can change that. I can take that chance right now. That's not a big deal. It's like that old adage, Ty.
I talked to
how to eat an elephant.
With the start at the hoofs?
One bite at a time.
Oh yeah, there you go. One bite at a time. So not the trunk. You don't start with the trunk. Tail end first?
No, you never want to start
the tusks.
With
I'm trying to think Gordon Ramsay here. How do I prepare an elephant? Yeah. No, this is, again, people, long and short, Social Security is not going to be everything you think it is.
Yeah.
It's not.
Plan accordingly.
So take the responsibility and plan accordingly.
Yeah. That wasn't too scary.
Wasn't it?
I don't know if that was scary.
No, we're not scary.
I don't know if that's not scary, but it makes you think.
It does, and it's kind of this idea of just taking a little bit of responsibility. You know what I mean? Owning up.
Yeah.
Facing the music.
That's right.
That's all it is. It's not scary.
Pay the piper.
It's good. Pay the piper. How many more?
I like them.
More idioms. And
I want to start creating my own idioms. So. Oh. You got to pay the music man when he comes around. You playing the violin, you got to
pay that Roddy Ride Piper. No, that was okay. I think we're done.
Okay, I think we are done. We're kind of just rambling now. So that's good, Ty.
We're rambling now.
So security, it's in the books. Everybody take the time. Check it out. Figure out what you got. Figure out what you need to do. Oh.
Yep.
Follow us. tyandray.com. We still got that up.
That's us.
You can go to any of
I think it's still there.
I think it is. Maybe we should check.
Here, I'm gonna pull up a website.
It should be there.
Loading. And it's still there.
Hey,
our
go.
mugs are still on that website.
We're actually getting quite a few. We're up to like 30 some odd podcasts between the market minis and the weekly longer ones. So there's kind of a book of podcasts that you can go watch.
Remember this too. I really want people to start emailing, and you can send it to our main company email, support@myprosper.team. Support@myprosper.team. I think we need to create an email for the podcast. But anyways, send an email or comment on any of these episodes. Mm-hmm. What are some other things you guys want to hear about?
Or should we just give you Ty's phone number and you can just text him? You want that?
My direct cell phone is this.
Here, I got it. Let me read it out to everybody. Hold on.
Okay.
That would be funny though. We should do that.
Good times.
Yeah. Follow us. We're gonna be putting this out. The market mini is gonna be coming out too. You can listen to those.
Yep.
And hey, give us a shout out. Let us know what you think. Give us some suggestions. Tell Ty to.
Do you like the paintings or the pictures in the background in my office?
Do you want,
or should they go?
Do you want Ty have a tighter shirt or less tight? Tell him.
You always make fun of my shirt,
man.
My shirts are awesome.
You do. Ty likes to show off his muscles. All right, Ty. Hey, thanks for your time, man.
Okay, buddy.
All right, see ya.
Appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Ty and Rye, the Finance Guys podcast today. If you like what you heard, go ahead and hit subscribe. That way you won't miss any future episodes. Also, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Ty and Rye Podcast. Also, check us out at myprosperteam.com. Thanks. We will see you next week.